Let's run a quick experiment. I want you to imagine you're about to take the most important shot of your life. Game's tied, clock's running out, thousands of people watching. Everyone expects you to make it. Your hands go cold, your breath catches. Some part of your brain screams, "Don't mess this up." Now, your ancestors dealt with pressure too. But it turns out your body handles theirs completely differently than it handles yours. And once you see why, you'll never look at a choke the same way again. Let's find out why. 50,000 years ago, your ancestor woke up with a very specific kind of problem. Not will I get promoted. Not what if I embarrass myself. Will I eat today? This is what scientists call persistence hunting. And before you assume it's some ancient legend that got exaggerated over time, let me be clear. This has been observed, filmed, and studied in real time by researchers who followed hunters doing exactly this in the Kalahari Desert. Here's how it works. The hunter picks a target, usually something big enough to feed multiple people. An antelope, a kudu, something that, on paper, is faster than any human. And then he just starts running after it, not sprinting, running, at a pace that looks almost casual. The animal bolts, obviously. It's gone in seconds. But the hunter doesn't stop. He follows the tracks. He reads the ground like you read a text message. He knows where the animal went, how tired it's getting, whether it stopped to rest. And every time the animal thinks it's safe and slows down, the hunter shows up again. This goes on for hours. 4 hours. 6 hours. Sometimes longer. The temperature out here hits 40 degrees Celsius. That's over 100 Fahrenheit. The kind of heat that makes you dizzy just standing still. But here's the trick. Humans sweat. We have millions of sweat glands all over our skin. We walk upright, so less of our body is exposed to direct sun. The antelope, 4 legs on the ground, fur coat, no sweat glands. It can only cool down by panting, and it can't pant while it's running. So every time it runs, it overheats a little more. And every time the hunter shows up again, calm and steady, the animal has to run again. Eventually, the animal's body just stops. Heat exhaustion. It can't regulate its temperature anymore. It lies down. The hunter walks up and finishes the job. Now here's what I want you to notice. The pressure here is physical. It's immediate. It's life or death. Yes, but it's simple. Run or stop. Track or lose the trail. Drink water or collapse. Every decision has a clear outcome. Every action moves you toward survival or away from it. There's no one watching, no one judging your form, no scoreboard, no camera zooming in on your face while you decide whether to keep going. You're alone with the problem. And here's what your nervous system was actually doing. It floods you with adrenaline. Your focus sharpens. Your pain tolerance skyrockets. Your heart rate stays steady because you've done this 100 times before, and your nervous system has learned that panic is expensive. This is what your body was built for. A 6-hour chase under the sun where the only question is, can you outlast it? The answer for most of human history was yes. Now let's talk about you. Or, more specifically, let's talk about what happens when you're standing at a free throw line with 10 seconds left and your team is down by 1. You've made this shot 1,000 times in practice. 1,000 times. Muscle memory so deep you could do it in your sleep. But right now, with 20,000 people staring at you, cameras in your face, and your entire career potentially hinging on whether this ball goes through that hoop, you miss. And the strangest part? You don't miss because you're tired. You don't miss because you're injured. You miss because your brain is trying to help. Let me explain. When you first learned to shoot a basketball, you had to think about every single part of it. Bend your knees, elbow in, follow through, arc, backspin. It was clunky. It was slow. It required your full conscious attention. But after 1,000 repetitions, something changes. Your brain moves that skill out of your conscious mind and into your basal ganglia. It becomes automatic. You don't think bend knees, elbow in anymore. You just shoot. This is called procedural memory, and it's incredibly efficient until you get nervous. Because when the pressure hits, when the crowd gets loud and the stakes get high, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles worry and self-monitoring, wakes up and says, wait, this is important. We should pay attention to this. And suddenly you're thinking about your elbow again. You're thinking about your knees. You're thinking about the 10,000 ways you could mess this up, and the skill that was smooth and automatic 2 minutes ago becomes choppy and manual, like you're a beginner again. Scientists call this choking under pressure. But that phrase makes it sound like a character flaw, like you're weak or you don't have what it takes. That's not what's happening. What's happening is that your conscious mind is trying to manually control a process that runs better when you're not thinking about it. Here's a study that shows just how strange this gets. Researchers asked professional athletes to perform their skill, let's say dribbling a soccer ball, while simultaneously saying the alphabet backwards out loud. Sounds like a distraction, right? Like it would make them worse? It made them better. Because forcing their conscious mind to focus on something irrelevant stopped it from interfering with the automatic skill. Your body knows how to shoot a free throw. Your brain is the thing getting in the way. And here's the part that makes this even harder. The hunter in the desert could act. He could run. He could move. He could burn off the adrenaline his body was pumping into his bloodstream. You have to stand still. You have to stay calm. You have to look composed while your heart is trying to pound its way out of your chest. You have to perform a delicate, precise motor skill while your body is screaming, run or fight. That's not a fair fight. Okay, so we've got two people under pressure. The hunter thrives. The athlete chokes. Why? Let's talk about a concept you probably haven't heard of, but your body follows religiously. It's called the Yerkes-Dodson Law. Here's the idea. Imagine pressure, stress, adrenaline, arousal, whatever you want to call it, on this axis, low to high, and performance on this axis, bad to good. Most people assume the relationship is simple. More pressure equals worse performance. Stress is bad, calm is good. That's not what the research shows. What actually happens is this. When pressure is too low, you're bored. You're not focused. Your performance is mediocre. As pressure increases, your performance improves. You get sharper, faster, more focused. There's a sweet spot right here in the middle, enough pressure to keep you locked in, not so much that you fall apart. But past that point, performance drops. Fast. Too much pressure, and your body stops helping you and starts sabotaging you. Now, and this is the part that actually explains you. The location of that sweet spot depends on the task. If the task is simple, pure physical endurance, something you've done so many times it's basically a reflex, the sweet spot is higher. You can handle more pressure. In fact, high pressure can even push you past your normal limits. But if the task is complex, if it requires precision, fine motor control, decision-making under uncertainty, the sweet spot shifts left. You need to be calmer. Too much adrenaline and your hands start shaking. Your thoughts get scattered. The hunter's task, simple, run, track, endure. His body has done this 1,000 times. High adrenaline helps him push through pain and fatigue. The athlete's task, complex. Precision shooting, split-second timing, fine motor control. High adrenaline makes his hands less steady and his mind less clear. Same amount of pressure. Totally different results. Because your nervous system doesn't know the difference between I need to sink this free throw and I need to outrun this predator. It just knows. High stakes. It floods your body with the same chemicals either way. And those chemicals were designed for running and fighting, not for standing still and being accurate. Let's talk about the thing that makes modern pressure so much worse. The audience. The hunter in the desert is alone. If he fails privately. His family might be disappointed when he comes home empty-handed, but they weren't standing there watching him lose the trail. They weren't judging every decision in real time. The athlete has 20,000 people staring at him. Cameras zoomed in on his face. Commentators analyzing his body language. Millions more watching at home. He is being evaluated. Constantly, publicly. And your brain treats being watched as a threat. There's a concept in psychology called evaluation apprehension. It's the fear of being judged. And it doesn't just make you nervous, it changes how your brain processes the task. When you know you're being watched, part of your attention splits off to monitor how you're being perceived. You're not just shooting the free throw anymore. You're also thinking about what the crowd thinks of you, what the commentators are saying, what your teammates are thinking. You are trying to perform two tasks at once. The actual task and the social task of managing how you're perceived. And your brain can't do both at full capacity. This is why practicing in an empty gym feels different than performing in a sold-out arena. The skill is the same. The pressure is not. Your ancestors never had to deal with this. They never had to perform a life or death task while being watched and judged by thousands of strangers. They had physical pressure, survival pressure, but not social evaluation pressure. And that difference breaks people. I once had to give a presentation in front of 200 people. Not as bad as the goose incident, but close. I had practiced it a dozen times. I knew every slide, every word. I got on stage. The lights hit me. I saw all those faces. And my brain just left. I stood there for what felt like an hour, probably 5 seconds, completely blank. My hands were sweating. My heart was trying to break my ribs. I was not in physical danger. No one was going to hurt me. But my body treated that moment like I was standing in front of a predator. Because to your amygdala, social rejection used to be a death sentence. Getting kicked out of the tribe meant you didn't survive. So when you feel like you're about to be judged and found wanting, your body panics. And that panic makes you worse at the very thing you're trying to do. All right, let's address the thing everyone believes, the clutch gene. The idea that some people are just built different, that when the pressure is highest, they don't choke, they rise. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Tom Brady. The legends who, when everything is on the line, somehow get better. It's a great story. It's also mostly not true. Researchers have studied this. They've looked at thousands of high-pressure moments in professional sports, game-winning shots, final second plays, overtime performances. And what they found is that most clutch players perform about the same as they do the rest of the time. Sometimes a little better, sometimes a little worse, but not consistently, dramatically better. The players we remember as clutch are the ones who succeeded in those moments. But we forget all the times they missed. We forget the other players who made the same shot and didn't become legends. We remember the story, not the statistics. Now, does that mean clutch performance is a myth? Not exactly. What it means is that the players who succeed under pressure aren't doing something magical. They're doing something very specific. They've trained so much that the skill is completely automatic. They've practiced under simulated pressure so many times that the real thing doesn't feel that different. And crucially, they've learned to quiet the part of their brain that wants to overthink. They've learned to trust the process and stop monitoring themselves. In other words, they've figured out how to put their brain back into hunter mode. They've made the complex task feel simple again. But even the best athletes in the world still choke sometimes. Because no amount of training can completely override the fact that your body was not designed to perform fine motor skills while being evaluated by thousands of people. You can get better at it. You can train for it. But you're still fighting against your own wiring. So, ancient hunter versus modern athlete, who handles pressure better? The obvious answer is the hunter, right? They thrived under pressure. Athletes choke. Case closed. Except, here's where it gets weird. You'd think ancient humans lived relatively low-stress lives. Sure, they had to hunt, but they didn't have deadlines. They didn't have mortgages. They didn't have performance reviews. Researchers actually tested this. They analyzed hair samples from ancient populations. Hair traps a hormone called cortisol, which is a marker of chronic stress. And what they found was surprising. Ancient humans had higher average cortisol levels than modern humans. They were more stressed, not less. Think about it. They worried about starving, about being attacked at night, about diseases they didn't understand and couldn't treat, about whether their children would survive infancy. Modern life has different stressors, but it also has antibiotics, grocery stores, roofs, climate control. The idea that ancient humans were chill and were all basket cases is not supported by the data. So what's the difference? The difference is the type of stress. Ancient stress had a physical release. You were scared, you ran. You were hungry, you hunted. You were cold, you built a fire. Modern stress makes you sit still. You're anxious about a deadline, you sit at a desk. You're worried about a presentation, you wait. You're stressed about money, you keep going to work and hope it gets better. There's no release, no action that makes the feeling go away. And critically, modern stress is often social. It's about being judged, being compared, being evaluated against other people. That's the kind of pressure that breaks us. Not because we're weak, but because we never evolved to handle it. So, here's the answer. Ancient hunters didn't handle pressure better. They handled different pressure better. Give them a 6-hour chase in the heat where the only rule is keep moving or go hungry, and they'll outlast you every single time. But put them in front of a crowd. Ask them to perform a delicate skill while being watched and judged. Give them pressure with no physical release. They'd struggle just like you do. The modern athlete isn't weaker. They're just fighting a kind of pressure that humans were never designed to face. And honestly, the fact that they succeed at all is kind of impressive, because standing still under a spotlight while your body screams at you to run is one of the hardest things a human can do. Your ancestors never had to do that. You do it all the time. Next time you freeze up in a meeting, or blank during a presentation, or miss the shot you've made 1,000 times, don't beat yourself up. You're running Ice Age software on a modern problem. And that is why. If you want to see how ancient humans handled a completely different kind of pressure, the kind that came from other humans, not animals, I'll leave that video right there. And if you made it this far, thank you. Hit subscribe if you want more of this every week. I'll see you next time.